Hello, my horror-loving dudes. I'm Killjoy Jake, and today I want to talk a little bit about the reality of bringing back Stu Macher into the current Scream narrative, and how I think that there's a better way to bring the character back overall. Let's get into it!
Well, sometimes that is better.
In the Scream fandom, Stu Macher is an incredibly coveted character. He's an easy favorite when it comes to ghostface killers due to his shocking reveal and zany performance in that first movie. The guy spits all over Skeet Ulrich and Nev Campbell. It's freaking awesome. He also has some of the funniest improvised lines of dialogue I've ever seen in a horror movie.
It was fun. Oh, we going.
He's portrayed by the very colorful Matthew Lillard at the dawn of his prime, giving what is, in my opinion, his most versatile performance. He is both sinister and silly while having a subtle yet dark shade of misogyny that most don't catch on the first viewing. He's a really well-written villain who steals the spotlight, and he's not even the focal antagonist. He's essentially the comedic relief and a slasher villain at the same time with a motor mouth. His performance has you enamored whether you're watching his juvenile liver quips during the fountain scene or his bloody cuddle session with Billy in the third act. And let me tell ya, old Jake here likes him some bloody cuddle sessions. Those are my favorite. His performance was so impactful, it's no wonder why so many fans wanted to see him come back for a sequel, immediately, all the way back in the Scream 2 days. This became even more apparent when Matthew Lillard showed up to the Scream 2 set one day and they decided to stick him in the movie in the background. Obviously, this was never intended to be a Stu Macher revival, it's just a fun little Easter egg. Between that and an unused script for Scream 3 that would have brought back the character, many people really want to see Stu come back in some capacity. As much as I crap on the idea, which trust me, the next like 5 or so plus minutes of this video is about to be me crapping on it, I would like to see the character back, and I want to talk about how we can do this without it completely ruining a big element of the Scream franchise. So first, let's discuss the facts. Stu Macher was killed all the way back in the events of Scream 1996 when Sidney Prescott dropped a very heavy CRT television on his face. The television shattered and electrocuted him at the same time. We know that from the Foley in that sequence, which by the way is also hilarious because of the little whimper he gives at the end. It's phenomenal, 10 out of 10. So it's not exactly an ambiguous death. I mean, the glass from the TV could have killed him alone, besides the fact that a very heavy TV probably crushed his skull, and then on top of all of that, he was electrocuted with 1, maybe 2 amps running through his brain. Yeah, that checks out. That's a death. Besides this being a very clear and obvious death, it's also a high point in the franchise as a whole. I don't want this to be retconned just so he can come back for another third act. The kill matches the outrageousness of the character Sidney is killing here. It feels like it was taken right out of a Friday the 13th sequel with its campiness. I think it's not only a fitting death for Stu, but a memorable one. One of the few criticisms I have about the franchise itself is its lack of interesting kills. The original movie easily featured some of the best kills this franchise has to offer. Besides the Stu kill, Tatum breaking her neck with the garage door is completely bonkers, and Casey Becker's death is unforgettably mean-spirited towards Drew Barrymore, America's sweetheart. All 3 of those aforementioned deaths are iconic in and of themselves, and to retcon one of those just so we could bring the character back for like 1 scene and then just kill him again, that would suck. This Stu revival isn't as cool as you think it would be. Bringing back Stu is also severely impractical considering he's been referenced in the other movies. This immediately rules out the possibility of him being in prison this whole time. And listen, just to be frank, if Stu was in prison, somebody would have mentioned that at this point. Like, you don't think they would have gone full on Hannibal Lecter with him with all of these other Ghostface killings happening, like asking him for advice? There would have been a scene, there would have been a suggestion at least. But if that's not a good enough argument for you, the Easter egg in Scream 2022 solidifies that pretty much. In Scream 2022, when Richie is eating some Pizza Hut and watching dead meat in a little cameo, which is very nice. Now, reading this to you exactly from a screenshot I have here, it says exactly this: did the real-life Stu Macher survive? Now that right there pretty much solidifies that it is public knowledge that Stu Macher is dead. You wouldn't be asking the question if he survived if there was a bunch of articles about how he went to prison all the way back in the 90s. And also, just think about YouTube videos for a second. Like, they're very clickbaity with their titles. I'm guilty of it, I'll be honest. But if it was already public knowledge that this infamous serial killer died in the 90s and everyone already knew that, and then you post a video that says, did the real Stu Macher survive? Ooh, okay, I'm clicking on that. Interesting. Is this character still alive even though everyone thinks of him as dead? Interesting. So yes, it is public knowledge that the character is dead. So he's not in prison. We can't go that route. It's just an impossibility at this point. Now there's a very obvious other route we could go here. Maybe he's been in hiding this whole time. I mean, his parents had a bunch of money. You don't own a house like that if you're working at McDonald's. So yeah, sure, his parents could be sheltering him somewhere. But then we got to explain why after 25 plus years does he decide to come out of hiding and go Ghostface again? And also, how would he fit into the current narrative without Sidney Prescott? You know, the woman that destroyed his face? Why would he be going after Billy Loomis's daughter, a person he's never met before, when there's someone still alive out there who f***ed up his face? He would 100% be going after Sidney Prescott over literally anybody else on the planet. Like, let's put Sam Carpenter aside for a minute. Why would Stu go after literally anybody else besides Sidney Prescott? That would be so frustrating to me as a fan. I would just be thinking that the whole time he'd be on screen giving his long-ass villain speech explaining why he's been in hiding the whole time. But besides that theory just making absolutely no sense, the biggest reason I don't want him to come back is because Stu just wouldn't be the same as how he was in 1996. Stu Macher was a gleeful rich kid who had the world by the essentially, and fucked it up because he wanted to kill his buddies with, well, one of his buddies. There's a couple of lines in the third act of the original Scream that have me thinking that maybe Stu didn't realize what he was really doing. The biggest indication of that is he has this line about how his parents are gonna be so mad at him. You know the line. And that makes me think he doesn't understand how acrimonious his actions are towards these other people around him. Like, the guy has never gotten anything worse than a slap on the wrist his whole life because, like I said, rich kid. But I just don't want Matthew Lillard to come back and have to play this more like Billy Loomis type role where he's a little more like dark and shadowy and all that. Matthew Lillard is best when he's over the top and zany, and that just would be so unrealistic if he decided to come back out and he's just the exact same Stu character. But the big truth here is that everyone is saying they want Stu to come back from the dead, when in reality, I think everyone just wants to see Stu Macher come back from the 90s and somehow be in a new movie, which is a possibility, and we don't have to do all this crazy explaining nonsense. In Scream 3, we see a videotape of Randy Meeks where he not only furthers the plot, but also gives us a nice little bout of fan service. This was given to our characters from a freshly created character who was apparently there the whole time in Woodsboro, Martha Meeks. She's Randy's sister. She had this videotape. You've seen it. You know it. You've seen the movies. Okay, let's get past that. Now, it's been recently revealed in Scream 5 that Stu Macher had a sister as well, Leslie Macher. So would it be too far of a stretch to say that maybe there's a videotape lying around at a Macher household somewhere with some Stu footage on it that maybe Leslie's too embarrassed to show anybody yet? And what if this videotape has some sort of clue on it that could help progress the plot, just like how we did it in Scream 3. And I'm not saying to do the exact same thing they did in Scream 3. What I'm saying is to kind of just take the concept and make it your own in a future sequel. Not only Matthew Lillard could come back, you could have Skeet Ulrich in there as well. You could have Randy come back, Jamie Kennedy. That would be awesome. And if you're worried about the de-aging, because in Scream 5, let's be honest, Skeet Ulrich doesn't look amazing. I was so glad to have him back as the character, even in those little tiny moments. It was cool, but ultimately it really didn't serve the plot, and it kind of didn't look the best. Doing it this way, you could have the characters watching it on an old school TV with a VHS player, and you'd have this VHS filter over the whole thing, not really being able to see the de-aging all that well. I mean, if you do a decent job on the de-aging and you have a pretty decent VHS filter, you won't really be able to tell all that much. And you could explain some kind of plot point for a future movie. I don't think that this is going to happen in Scream 6, although I could see this VHS tape lying around somewhere in the Shrine of Ghostface. That would be cool. I could see it happening in a Scream 7 though, where something comes back from the past once again to tie everything together. Maybe our killer this time around already saw this VHS tape and was inspired by something Stu said. It could almost play into this theme of legacy, which has already been a theme in Scream 5. Maybe it moves into Scream 6 by having the killers have a legacy themselves. Not a good one, but it's still a legacy. They still leave something behind, even if they're awful people. This would be the most ideal way to bring Stu Macher back, because you could see him again in his full glory and he wouldn't have to like pull back because of years of trauma and being hidden away from society. That would suck. Like, Dark Stu is literally just Billy Loomis, and Matthew Lillard just would not excel in a role like that. Have him play Stu how Stu is meant to be played. So as much as I don't want to see Stu come back from the dead, I would love to see a younger version of Stu on a VHS tape, which would be pretty awesome. So consider me back on the Stu train, with some specifications though. VHS Stu or no Stu is how I see it. So what is your stance on a Stu Macher revival? Do you want to see him come back from the dead in a VHS tape, or just not at all? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new video talking a little bit about Mr. Stu Macher. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a channel member by clicking that join button on my page. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.